The morning sun cast long shadows across the concrete obstacles of Fort Bridgewater's combat training course, as Sarah Mitchell struggled to complete her third attempt at the rope climb. Her small frame shook with exhaustion, sweat dripping from her brow as she slipped down the thick rope for the second time in 5 minutes. Around her, other trainees watched with a mixture of pity and impatience, their own equipment packs ready for the next phase of advanced combat medic training. From across the training yard, Tyler Brooks shook his head in disgust, his perfectly pressed uniform still immaculate, despite having completed the same course 20 minutes earlier. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. As the top graduate from West Point's most competitive class and holder of 3 Combat Excellence Awards, Tyler had arrived at Fort Bridgewater, expecting to train alongside elite soldiers who shared his dedication to military superiority. Instead, he found himself watching what he considered a liability struggle with basic physical requirements. But what Tyler didn't know, what none of them knew, was that the woman he was about to dismiss as weak had once made a decision in 30 seconds that would save more lives than most soldiers could protect in an entire career. The number 847 was etched into classified mission reports that would never see daylight, a testament to courage that had nothing to do with rope climbing, and everything to do with the kind of strength that emerges when ordinary people face extraordinary circumstances. Sarah finally reached the top of the rope, her breathing ragged but determined. She rappelled down with careful precision, landing softly on the training mat while Tyler's group had already moved to the next station. The Combat Medic program at Fort Bridgewater was designed to push soldiers beyond their physical and mental limits, preparing them for the harsh realities of battlefield medicine, where split-second decisions could mean the difference between life and death. Fort Bridgewater sprawled across 15,000 acres of Colorado wilderness, its training facilities designed to simulate every conceivable combat environment. The base had earned its reputation as one of the military's most demanding training installations, where future combat medics learned to perform life-saving procedures under conditions that would break lesser individuals. Snow-capped mountains formed a dramatic backdrop to obstacle courses, firing ranges, and medical simulation centers that tested both physical endurance and mental resilience. Sarah worked as a medical supply coordinator in the training wing, a position that seemed perfectly suited to her quiet demeanor and methodical approach to organization. Every morning, she arrived at the supply depot before dawn, checking inventory lists and ensuring that training exercises had all necessary medical equipment. Her supervisor, Dr. Rebecca Walsh, appreciated Sarah's attention to detail and her ability to anticipate what supplies would be needed for various training scenarios. The other trainees rarely paid attention to Sarah beyond noting her presence during equipment distribution. She moved through the base with an almost invisible efficiency, carrying clipboards and organizing medical kits, while the real soldiers focused on the demanding physical and tactical challenges that would prepare them for deployment. Her slight build and soft-spoken manner marked her as support personnel, rather than someone preparing for frontline service. Tyler Brooks represented everything the military valued in its next generation of combat leaders. Standing 6 feet 2 inches with the kind of confident bearing that commanded attention, he had excelled in every aspect of his military education. His academic record at West Point included degrees in tactical medicine and emergency response, subjects he had mastered through rigorous study and practical application. His fellow trainees looked to him for leadership, and instructors often used his performance as an example for others to follow. The Advanced Combat Medic program attracted soldiers from across the military branches, each selected for their potential to serve in high-stress medical situations where traditional hospital protocols became inadequate. These men and women would be responsible for treating battlefield injuries under enemy fire, managing mass casualty events, and making impossible decisions about resource allocation when multiple lives hung in the balance. The training was deliberately brutal, designed to identify and eliminate those who couldn't handle the psychological pressure of combat medicine. During morning formation, Tyler stood in the front row with other program participants, while Captain Daniel Rodriguez outlined the day's training objectives. The captain, a 20-year veteran with deployment experience in 3 different combat zones, emphasized the importance of physical conditioning in combat medicine. Medics who couldn't keep up with infantry units, he explained, became liabilities rather than assets in operational environments. Sarah stood in the back with other support staff, taking notes on equipment requirements for the day's exercises. She wore the same digital camouflage uniform as the trainees, but without the specialized patches and insignia that marked combat medic candidates. Her notebook contained detailed logistics information about medical supplies, training schedules, and equipment maintenance protocols that kept the program running smoothly. Tyler noticed her during equipment distribution, watching as she efficiently organized medical kits according to training scenario requirements. Her movements were precise and economical, suggesting familiarity with medical equipment that seemed inconsistent with her administrative role. When she handed him his assigned kit, he noticed calluses on her hands that suggested more physical activity than typical desk work would require. The first training exercise involved battlefield triage simulation, where trainees had to assess and treat multiple casualties under time pressure, while simulated enemy fire created additional stress. Tyler excelled at the challenge, quickly identifying the most critically injured actors and implementing treatment protocols with textbook precision. His confidence never wavered as he moved between casualties, making decisions that prioritized resources effectively while maintaining tactical awareness of the simulated combat environment. Sarah observed the exercise from a distance, making notes about equipment usage and supply consumption that would inform future training preparation. She watched Tyler's performance with professional interest, noting his systematic approach to triage and his ability to maintain focus despite the chaos designed to overwhelm trainee decision-making processes. His technical skills were impressive, though she observed certain inefficiencies in his movement patterns that suggested limited experience with actual mass casualty situations. After the exercise, Tyler joined his usual group of fellow trainees for debriefing and informal discussion. The conversation naturally centered on performance analysis and competitive comparison of response times and treatment decisions. Tyler enjoyed these sessions, where his superior knowledge and quick thinking earned recognition from peers who respected his academic achievements and natural leadership abilities. Emma Chen, a fellow trainee who had quickly aligned herself with Tyler's informal leadership group, voiced what many of them were thinking about the day's performance evaluations. She questioned why someone like Sarah was even present during tactical exercises, suggesting that support personnel should remain in administrative areas, rather than observing training that didn't involve their responsibilities. Tyler agreed, adding that the presence of non-participants created unnecessary distractions during critical learning exercises. Their conversation was overheard by Sergeant First Class Maria Santos, a combat veteran who served as one of the program's primary instructors. Santos had completed 4 deployments in active combat zones, where she had witnessed the kind of battlefield medicine that transformed textbook knowledge into life-or-death reality. Her experience had taught her to value competence over confidence, and she had developed an instinct for identifying soldiers who possessed the rare combination of technical skill and emotional resilience required for combat medicine. Santos approached Tyler's group with the measured Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Stride of someone accustomed to command responsibility. Her uniform displayed ribbons and commendations that testified to distinguished service in some of the military's most challenging assignments. When she spoke, her voice carried the authority of someone who had earned respect through performance rather than rank alone. She reminded the trainees that judgment based on appearances had no place in combat medicine, where lives often depended on recognizing capability regardless of how it was packaged. Santos had seen battlefield medics who looked like Hollywood action heroes fail under pressure, while others who seemed physically unremarkable had performed miracles of medical intervention under impossible circumstances. The ability to assess human capability accurately, she emphasized, was as important as any technical medical skill they would learn during training. Tyler acknowledged the sergeant's point, but privately maintained his opinion about physical standards and their importance in combat effectiveness. His military education had emphasized the correlation between physical conditioning and performance under stress, and he believed that soldiers who couldn't meet basic fitness requirements would inevitably become liabilities in operational environments. Sarah's struggle with simple obstacles like rope climbing reinforced his conviction that some people were simply unsuited for military service beyond administrative roles. The afternoon brought advanced trauma management training, where trainees learned to perform complex medical procedures under simulated battlefield conditions. Tyler demonstrated his knowledge of emergency surgery techniques, successfully completing a simulated chest tube insertion while managing multiple other critical injuries. His performance earned praise from instructors and admiration from fellow trainees, who recognized his potential for leadership in high-stress medical situations. Sarah continued her supply coordination duties, ensuring that each training station had appropriate medical equipment and that used materials were properly cleaned and restocked for subsequent exercises. Her familiarity with medical equipment was evident in how she handled sophisticated devices, checking calibrations and functionality with the expertise of someone who understood their operational requirements. Several instructors had come to rely on her equipment knowledge, though none questioned why a supply coordinator possessed such detailed understanding of complex medical technology. During a brief break between training modules, Tyler observed Sarah organizing trauma management supplies with impressive efficiency. She sorted equipment by priority and frequency of use, creating organized stations that would allow rapid access during emergency procedures. Her system was more sophisticated than the standard supply protocols, suggesting experience with situations where equipment organization could impact patient outcomes. Tyler found himself curious about her background, though he attributed her organizational skills to civilian experience rather than military training. The day's final exercise involved night operations simulation, where trainees had to provide medical care in low-light conditions while maintaining operational security. Tyler's group was assigned to establish a forward aid station and treat casualties while avoiding detection by opposing forces. The exercise required both medical competence and tactical awareness, skills that Tyler had developed through extensive study and practical application during his military education. Sarah remained in the supply depot during night exercises, but Tyler noticed lights in the building well past normal operational hours. Through the windows, he could see her reviewing equipment inventories and preparing supply kits for the following day's training scenarios. Her dedication to administrative duties was admirable, though Tyler couldn't understand why someone would choose such mundane responsibilities when more exciting opportunities existed within the military structure. As trainees returned from night exercises, Tyler overheard conversation between Captain Rodriguez and Dr. Walsh regarding supply efficiency and training effectiveness. They discussed how equipment organization had improved significantly since Sarah's assignment to the supply coordination role, with fewer equipment failures and better resource allocation during training exercises. Dr. Walsh mentioned that Sarah had suggested several modifications to equipment protocols that had enhanced training realism and safety margins. Tyler found their praise puzzling, unable to understand how administrative improvements could warrant such positive attention from senior officers. His focus remained on the tactical and medical challenges that would prepare him for deployment, where his leadership abilities and technical expertise would be tested in real combat situations. Supply coordination seemed like a necessary but unremarkable support function that required organization rather than the specialized knowledge that distinguished elite soldiers. The first week of training concluded with comprehensive performance evaluations that would determine each trainee's suitability for advanced combat medicine specialization. Tyler's scores exceeded program standards in every category, confirming his position among the top candidates for fast-track assignment to elite medical units. His confidence in his abilities was reinforced by instructor feedback that praised his technical competence and leadership potential. Sarah completed her first week with quiet satisfaction in the smooth operation of supply systems that supported successful training outcomes. Her modifications to equipment organization had reduced training delays and improved resource utilization, though her contributions remained largely invisible to the trainees who benefited from her efforts. She found meaning in work that enabled others to succeed, even when that success went unrecognized by those who achieved it. Tyler's informal leadership group had expanded to include most of the program's top performers, soldiers who shared his commitment to excellence and his confidence in their preparation for combat deployment. Their evening discussions centered on tactical scenarios and medical challenges they expected to encounter in operational environments, conversations that reinforced their sense of superiority over support personnel who would never face such demanding responsibilities. Emma Chen had become Tyler's most vocal supporter, amplifying his opinions about military standards and the importance of maintaining clear distinctions between combat personnel and administrative staff. She agreed with his assessment that people like Sarah represented a different category of military service, necessary but fundamentally separate from the elite soldiers who would carry primary responsibility for mission success in combat environments. During Weekend Liberty, Tyler explored the small town adjacent to Fort Bridgewater, where he encountered several local residents who had connections to the military base. Their conversations revealed deep respect for the combat medic program and its graduates, who were widely recognized as among the military's most skilled and dedicated personnel. The prestige associated with the program reinforced Tyler's pride in his selection and his determination to excel during the demanding training period. Sarah spent her weekend reviewing medical literature and studying equipment specifications for new devices being introduced to the training program. Her apartment contained an extensive library of medical textbooks and research journals, materials that suggested interests beyond basic supply coordination. She maintained detailed notes on equipment performance and training outcomes, information that she used to continuously improve support systems for program participants. The contrast between Tyler's social confidence and Sarah's solitary dedication reflected different approaches to military service, though neither fully understood the other's motivations or capabilities. Tyler's focus on recognition and advancement represented one model of military ambition, while Sarah's quiet commitment to enabling others' success embodied a different form of service that valued contribution over credit. As the second week of training approached, both Tyler and Sarah prepared for new challenges that would test their respective abilities and reveal hidden depths of character that neither yet recognized in themselves or each other. The stage was set for discoveries that would transform their understanding of strength, capability, and the true meaning of military service in ways that neither could anticipate. Monday morning arrived with the kind of crisp mountain air that made every breath feel like a challenge, and Tyler Brooks was ready to meet it head-on. The second week of advanced combat medic training promised more complex scenarios, higher stakes, and greater opportunities for him to demonstrate the leadership qualities that had earned him recognition throughout his military career. As he adjusted his gear and prepared for morning formation, Tyler felt the familiar surge of confidence that came from knowing he was exactly where he belonged. The training schedule posted outside the medical facility outlined a week of intensive field exercises designed to push trainees beyond their comfort zones. Combat medicine under fire, mass casualty management, and resource allocation under extreme pressure would separate the exceptional candidates from those who merely met minimum standards. Tyler reviewed the requirements with satisfaction, recognizing each challenge as an opportunity to showcase the skills that made him indispensable to any military medical unit. Sarah Mitchell arrived at the supply depot 30 minutes before her official start time, a habit that had become routine since her assignment to Fort Bridgewater. The early morning hours provided quiet time to review equipment inventories and prepare for the day's training requirements without interruption. Her systematic approach to supply management had eliminated the equipment shortages and maintenance delays that had previously disrupted training schedules, though few people outside the logistics chain were aware of these improvements. As trainees gathered for morning briefing, Tyler positioned himself prominently among the group's informal leaders, soldiers whose academic credentials and training performance had earned them recognition from instructors and respect from peers. Their conversations centered on tactical medicine and deployment scenarios, discussions that reinforced their sense of belonging to an elite community of military professionals preparing for the most demanding assignments the service could offer. Captain Rodriguez outlined the week's training objectives with the measured tone of someone who had witnessed the realities that these exercises were designed to simulate. Field medical operations, he explained, required not only technical competence, but also the mental resilience to function effectively when conventional medical protocols became inadequate. The soldiers who succeeded in this program would face situations where textbook knowledge had to be adapted instantly to save lives under conditions that civilian medical professionals could barely imagine. Sarah stood with other support personnel during the briefing, taking detailed notes about equipment requirements and logistical considerations that would ensure smooth execution of training exercises. Her presence at these briefings had become routine, though most trainees paid little attention to administrative staff, who seemed peripheral to their primary focus on mastering combat medicine. Tyler occasionally glanced in her direction, noting her meticulous attention to details that seemed irrelevant to the serious business of military medical training. The first exercise of the week involved establishing forward medical posts under simulated enemy contact, a scenario that required trainees to balance medical treatment with tactical awareness. Tyler excelled in this environment, efficiently organizing treatment areas while maintaining security protocols that protected both medics and patients from additional casualties. His ability to think systematically under pressure impressed instructors who recognized the leadership potential that distinguished exceptional officers from merely competent ones. During equipment distribution, Sarah demonstrated the kind of efficiency that Tyler had begun to notice, despite his focus on more important matters. She handed out medical kits with practiced familiarity, ensuring that each trainee received exactly the supplies needed for their assigned role in the exercise. Her knowledge of equipment specifications seemed unusually detailed for someone in an administrative position, though Tyler attributed this to thorough preparation rather than actual medical experience. Emma Chen approached Tyler during a brief break between training modules, her expression reflecting the frustration that several trainees were beginning to feel about aspects of the program that seemed inconsistent with their expectations. She questioned why support personnel like Sarah were granted access to training areas where sensitive tactical information was being discussed, suggesting that security protocols should limit observation to individuals with appropriate clearance levels and legitimate need to know. Tyler agreed with Emma's concerns, adding his own observations about the apparent informality of security measures that allowed administrative staff to witness training exercises involving classified medical procedures. His military education had emphasized the importance of operational security in all aspects of military service, and he believed that unnecessary personnel should be excluded from training areas where future combat medics were learning techniques that could provide tactical advantages to enemy forces. Their conversation attracted the attention of Sergeant First Class Santos, who approached with the kind of measured stride that suggested both authority and patience. Her expression remained neutral as she listened to their concerns, though Tyler detected something in her demeanor that suggested their assumptions were being evaluated rather than simply acknowledged. Santos had developed an instinct for identifying soldiers whose confidence exceeded their wisdom, a combination that could prove dangerous in operational environments where overconfidence led to catastrophic decision-making. Santos reminded the group that security clearances and access permissions were determined by factors beyond their current understanding, and that questioning administrative decisions reflected poor judgment rather than appropriate concern for operational security. Military service, she emphasized, required trust in chain-of-command decisions, even when the reasoning behind those decisions wasn't immediately apparent to junior personnel. Effective soldiers learned to focus on their assigned responsibilities rather than analyzing aspects of operations that didn't involve their duties. Tyler acknowledged the sergeant's guidance while privately maintaining his opinion about the apparent inconsistencies he had observed. His training at West Point had emphasized the importance of situational awareness and critical thinking in military leadership, qualities that he believed required questioning seemingly illogical procedures. Sarah's presence during tactical exercises continued to puzzle him, though he accepted that administrative requirements might necessitate support personnel observation for reasons beyond his current need to know. The afternoon brought advanced trauma surgery simulation, where trainees practiced complex procedures under conditions designed to replicate the stress and resource limitations of battlefield medicine. Tyler's performance during these exercises reinforced his reputation as one of the program's most promising candidates, demonstrating both technical competence and the kind of calm decision-making that distinguished exceptional medics from those who merely followed protocols effectively. Sarah observed these exercises from her position in the equipment management area, ensuring that surgical supplies were properly maintained and that used materials were immediately replaced to support continuous training operations. Her familiarity with surgical equipment was evident in how she handled delicate instruments, checking calibrations and functionality with expertise that seemed inconsistent with basic administrative training. Several instructors had begun consulting her about equipment performance issues, though none questioned why her knowledge exceeded typical supply coordination requirements. During evening formation, Captain Rodriguez announced changes to the following day's training schedule that would incorporate lessons learned from the current week's exercises. The modifications reflected ongoing assessment of training effectiveness and the need to maintain realistic challenge levels that prepared trainees for actual deployment conditions. Tyler listened carefully to these announcements, analyzing how the changes might affect his performance and his standing among program candidates. Sarah remained in the supply depot after normal operational hours, reviewing equipment performance data and preparing modified supply protocols based on observations from the week's training exercises. Her analysis of equipment usage patterns and failure rates provided valuable information for improving training realism, while maintaining safety standards that protected both trainees and expensive medical equipment. Her reports to Dr. Walsh had become increasingly sophisticated, suggesting analytical capabilities that extended beyond basic inventory management. Tyler noticed lights in the supply building during his evening run around the base perimeter, a training routine that helped maintain the physical conditioning required for combat medic duties. Through the windows, he could see Sarah working with equipment manuals and technical documentation, her focus suggesting dedication to administrative duties that seemed excessive for routine supply coordination. His curiosity about her background grew stronger, though he remained convinced that her role represented support rather than operational capability. The week's second day brought field medical exercises that required trainees to establish and operate forward aid stations while managing simulated mass casualty situations. Tyler's leadership abilities were tested as he coordinated treatment teams and managed resource allocation under time pressure that replicated the chaos of actual combat medical operations. His performance earned recognition from instructors who noted his potential for rapid advancement to positions requiring both medical expertise and command responsibility. Sarah's role in these exercises involved ensuring continuous supply flow to forward medical positions, a responsibility that required her to move between training areas while maintaining inventory accountability for expensive and sensitive medical equipment. Tyler observed her movements during the exercise, noting that she navigated the tactical environment with awareness that seemed unusual for someone without combat training. Her positioning and movement patterns suggested understanding of cover and concealment principles that administrative personnel typically didn't possess. During the exercise debrief, instructors praised Tyler's leadership performance while noting areas where communication and coordination could be improved. The feedback reinforced his confidence in his preparation for deployment, while providing specific guidance for continued development. Tyler valued these assessment sessions, where his competitive nature and desire for excellence drove continuous improvement in his already impressive skill set. Emma Chen used the debrief session to voice additional concerns about program protocols that seemed inconsistent with her expectations for elite military training. She questioned why certain aspects of equipment management seemed to receive disproportionate attention compared to purely tactical considerations, suggesting that excessive focus on logistics detracted from the combat medicine skills that would determine mission success in operational environments. Tyler supported Emma's observations, adding that his experience suggested successful combat operations depended primarily on individual competence and unit cohesion rather than elaborate support systems that could become liabilities when simplified field conditions required improvisation. His military education had emphasized adaptability and self-reliance as core values that distinguished elite units from conventional forces that relied too heavily on external support systems. Sergeant Santos responded to their concerns with patience that suggested she had encountered similar attitudes from previous training groups. Military operations, she explained, succeeded or failed based on integration between combat personnel and support systems that enabled sustained operations under challenging conditions. The most effective combat medics were those who understood how their individual performance fit into larger operational frameworks that required coordination between multiple specialties and support functions. Tyler found the sergeant's response unsatisfying, though he recognized the importance of maintaining respectful dialogue with senior instructors. His focus remained on developing the individual competence and leadership skills that would make him valuable in any operational environment, regardless of available support systems. Sarah's administrative role, while perhaps necessary, represented a different category of military service that seemed peripheral to the core mission of saving lives under fire. The week's third day introduced night operation scenarios that tested trainees' ability to provide medical care under conditions of limited visibility and heightened tactical risk. Tyler adapted quickly to the challenges of darkness, using night vision equipment effectively while maintaining the situational awareness necessary for medical operations in hostile environments. His performance during these exercises demonstrated the versatility that made him a candidate for special operations medical assignments. Sarah's responsibilities during night exercises involved maintaining equipment security and ensuring that sensitive medical devices were properly secured when not in active use. Tyler observed her moving through the training area with confidence that seemed unusual for someone supposedly unfamiliar with night operations, though he attributed her apparent comfort to thorough preparation rather than actual field experience. During a brief rest period between night exercise phases, Tyler engaged in conversation with Dr. Walsh about career development opportunities for exceptional combat medic candidates. The doctor's responses suggested that advancement in military medicine required not only technical competence, but also understanding of how medical operations integrated with broader military objectives. Her comments about the complexity of modern military medicine implied challenges that extended beyond individual performance to include coordination with support systems and specialized personnel. Tyler found Dr. Walsh's perspective interesting, though somewhat abstract compared to his focus on practical skills and leadership development. His goal remained assignment to elite medical units, where his capabilities would be tested in the most demanding operational environments the military could provide. Support coordination and administrative integration seemed like concerns for later career phases, when broader responsibilities might require understanding of systems beyond direct patient care. The conversation was interrupted by a minor equipment failure that threatened to delay the night exercise schedule, a situation that required immediate problem-solving to maintain training continuity. Tyler watched as Sarah quickly diagnosed the equipment malfunction and implemented a temporary solution that allowed the exercise to proceed without significant delay. Her troubleshooting abilities impressed him, though he assumed that administrative personnel received sufficient technical training to handle routine equipment problems. Sarah's solution involved reconfiguring equipment settings in ways that suggested deeper understanding of device functionality than basic operator training would provide. Her modifications restored full operational capability while implementing backup protocols that prevented similar failures during the remainder of the exercise. Dr. Walsh thanked her for the quick resolution, though Sarah deflected credit by attributing the solution to standard troubleshooting procedures rather than specialized knowledge. Tyler completed the night exercises with performance that exceeded program standards, reinforcing his position among the top candidates for accelerated assignment to operational units. His confidence in his preparation for deployment grew stronger with each successful training evolution, though he remained curious about aspects of the program that seemed unnecessarily complex for what he understood to be straightforward combat medicine training. The week's fourth day brought the most challenging exercise yet attempted, a comprehensive scenario that combined mass casualty management with tactical movement under simulated enemy contact. Tyler's leadership was tested as he coordinated multiple treatment teams while managing limited medical supplies and maintaining operational security under conditions designed to overwhelm decision-making processes. His performance during this exercise would significantly influence his final program evaluation and subsequent assignment opportunities. Sarah's role in the exercise required her to coordinate supply delivery to multiple forward medical positions while adapting to rapidly changing tactical situations that affected both personnel safety and equipment security. Tyler observed her communications with various team leaders, noting that her coordination efforts seemed unusually sophisticated for basic supply management duties. Her ability to track multiple equipment requirements simultaneously while maintaining awareness of tactical developments suggested capabilities that extended beyond routine administrative training. The exercise reached its climax when simulated enemy contact forced medical teams to evacuate their positions while continuing to treat critically injured casualties. Tyler's leadership during this phase demonstrated his ability to maintain medical effectiveness while implementing tactical procedures that protected both patients and medical personnel from additional casualties. His performance earned praise from instructors who recognized the kind of competence that distinguished exceptional officers from merely adequate ones. During the evacuation phase, Tyler noticed Sarah implementing equipment security procedures with efficiency that suggested familiarity with tactical movements under hostile conditions. Her ability to rapidly secure sensitive medical devices while maintaining accountability for expensive equipment impressed him, though he attributed her competence to thorough administrative training rather than actual field experience. Her coordination with evacuation teams seemed unusually smooth for someone supposedly unfamiliar with tactical operations. The exercise concluded with comprehensive medical treatment of simulated casualties at rear area medical facilities, where Tyler demonstrated his mastery of advanced trauma surgery techniques under conditions that replicated actual combat hospital operations. His technical performance during this phase reinforced his reputation as one of the program's most promising candidates, capable of handling the most demanding medical challenges that deployment could present. Sarah's responsibilities during the rear area phase involved coordinating equipment transfers between forward and rear medical positions, ensuring that critical supplies remained available throughout the extended exercise scenario. Tyler observed her interactions with medical teams at various treatment levels, noting that her communications suggested understanding of medical priorities and treatment protocols that seemed advanced for someone in an administrative position. Her ability to anticipate equipment needs before they were specifically requested impressed several team leaders who had begun to rely on her logistical support. As the week's training evolved from basic scenarios to increasingly complex challenges, Tyler's confidence in his own abilities continued to grow, while his curiosity about Sarah's background deepened. Her competence in areas that seemed peripheral to supply coordination puzzled him, though he remained focused on his own performance and preparation for the deployment opportunities that successful completion of the program would provide. The stage was being set for revelations that would challenge everything he thought he understood about capability, service, and the true meaning of strength in military operations. The third week of training brought unseasonably warm weather to Fort Bridgewater, and with it came Tyler Brooks' growing frustration with what he perceived as inconsistencies in the program's operational structure. His performance continued to exceed expectations in every measurable category. Yet certain aspects of the training environment remained puzzling to someone who prided himself on understanding military systems and hierarchies. Sarah Mitchell's presence during sensitive training exercises had evolved from a minor curiosity to a genuine source of confusion that demanded investigation. Tyler's informal leadership position among the trainees had solidified over the past weeks, with fellow candidates increasingly looking to him for guidance on both technical medical procedures and program navigation. His academic background and natural confidence made him a focal point for discussions about career development and assignment preferences, conversations that reinforced his sense of belonging among the military's future medical elite. Emma Chen had become his most reliable supporter, amplifying his observations about program irregularities and supporting his growing conviction that certain protocols needed clarification. During morning equipment distribution, Tyler positioned himself where he could observe Sarah's interactions with both trainees and instructional staff more closely than his previous casual attention had allowed. Her familiarity with complex medical devices had progressed beyond what routine administrative duties would require, and her conversations with equipment technicians suggested knowledge of maintenance protocols typically reserved for specialized personnel. When she handed him his assigned medical kit, Tyler noticed that her equipment selection included items that weren't listed on the standard distribution roster, additions that seemed to anticipate specific training requirements before they were officially announced. The morning's training exercise involved advanced surgical procedures under simulated combat conditions, scenarios that required trainees to perform complex operations while managing multiple casualties and resource limitations. Tyler's performance during these exercises had become consistently exceptional, demonstrating both technical competence and the kind of calm decision-making that distinguished natural leaders from those who simply followed established protocols. His ability to adapt standard procedures to unique circumstances had earned recognition from instructors who valued innovation alongside competence. Sarah's role during surgical exercises involved maintaining sterile equipment supplies and ensuring that complex devices remained functional throughout extended training scenarios. Tyler observed her moving through the surgical training area with awareness of sterile field protocols that suggested understanding of surgical procedures beyond basic supply management requirements. Her positioning relative to active surgical sites demonstrated knowledge of contamination prevention that typically required formal medical training rather than administrative instruction. During a brief break between surgical scenarios, Tyler approached Dr. Walsh with questions about equipment protocols that seemed unusually complex for standard training exercises. The doctor's responses suggested that current training incorporated lessons learned from recent operational deployments, where equipment failures and supply shortages had created medical emergencies that required improvisation and adaptation. Her comments about the importance of comprehensive equipment knowledge implied that successful combat medics needed understanding that extended beyond basic operational procedures. Tyler found Dr. Walsh's explanations logical, though incomplete, failing to address his specific observations about Sarah's apparent expertise in areas unrelated to supply coordination. His questions about personnel qualifications and training backgrounds were deflected with comments about privacy policies and the need to focus on individual performance, rather than analyzing other personnel's roles and responsibilities. The doctor's reluctance to discuss administrative matters frustrated Tyler, who believed that understanding program structure was essential for maximizing his training opportunities. The conversation was interrupted by an equipment malfunction that threatened to disrupt the afternoon's training schedule, a technical failure involving sophisticated monitoring devices that required immediate diagnosis and repair. Tyler watched as Sarah quickly identified the problem source and implemented a solution that restored full operational capability within minutes. Her troubleshooting approach demonstrated systematic diagnostic thinking that suggested formal technical training rather than basic administrative preparation. Sarah's repair involved accessing device software systems and modifying configuration settings in ways that Tyler recognized as requiring specialized knowledge of medical equipment programming. Her modifications not only resolved the immediate problem, but also optimized device performance for the specific training requirements of the afternoon's exercises. Dr. Walsh thanked her for the rapid resolution while noting that her technical contributions had prevented significant training delays that would have affected the entire program schedule. Tyler's curiosity about Sarah's background intensified following the equipment repair incident, prompting him to seek additional information through informal conversations with fellow trainees and instructional staff. His questions about personnel assignments and qualification requirements were met with responses that seemed evasive rather than simply uninformed, suggesting that information about Sarah's background was being deliberately limited rather than routinely unavailable. Emma Chen shared Tyler's growing frustration with what seemed like unnecessary secrecy about administrative personnel qualifications, arguing that transparency about program structure would improve training effectiveness and reduce confusion about roles and responsibilities. Her comments attracted agreement from other trainees who had noticed similar inconsistencies between apparent personnel qualifications and actual job performance, creating an informal consensus that certain aspects of program organization lacked logical explanation. The afternoon's training evolution involved mass casualty management exercises that tested trainees' ability to coordinate medical treatment for large numbers of simulated casualties, while maintaining tactical awareness and resource accountability. Tyler's leadership during these exercises demonstrated his mastery of triage principles and his ability to organize treatment teams effectively under extreme pressure. His performance reinforced his position among the program's top candidates, while providing opportunities for him to mentor less experienced trainees. Sarah's responsibilities during mass casualty exercises involved coordinating supply distribution to multiple treatment areas while tracking equipment usage and maintaining inventory accountability for expensive medical devices. Tyler observed her communications with treatment team leaders, noting that her coordination efforts seemed to anticipate resource needs before they were specifically requested. Her ability to track multiple supply requirements simultaneously while maintaining awareness of changing tactical situations suggested capabilities that extended beyond routine logistics training. During the exercise's most challenging phase, when simulated enemy contact forced evacuation of primary treatment areas, Tyler witnessed Sarah implementing equipment security procedures with efficiency that seemed inconsistent with basic administrative training. Her ability to rapidly secure sensitive medical devices while coordinating with evacuation teams demonstrated familiarity with tactical procedures that supply personnel typically wouldn't possess. Her movements during the evacuation suggested understanding of cover and concealment principles that required specialized training. The exercise concluded with after-action reviews that analyzed both individual performance and team coordination effectiveness, sessions that Tyler valued for their detailed feedback on leadership decisions and technical competence. Instructors praised his ability to maintain medical effectiveness while adapting to rapidly changing tactical situations, recognition that reinforced his confidence in his preparation for operational assignments. His questions about equipment coordination and supply management were answered with comments about the importance of understanding support systems that enabled sustained medical operations. Tyler's inquiries about personnel qualifications and training backgrounds were again deflected, with references to privacy policies and the need to focus on individual development rather than analyzing other personnel's roles. The instructor's reluctance to discuss administrative matters increased his curiosity about aspects of program organization that seemed unnecessarily secretive for routine training operations. His military education had emphasized the importance of understanding operational context, and the apparent information restrictions frustrated his attempts to comprehend program structure completely. Following the evening formation, Tyler decided to investigate Sarah's background through official channels that might provide information unavailable through informal conversations. His access to personnel databases was limited by his rank and position, but basic assignment information should be available to personnel working in the same unit. His initial searches revealed standard administrative data about Sarah's current assignment, but provided little information about her previous military experience or specialized training background. The personnel records available to Tyler showed Sarah's assignment to Fort Bridgewater's Medical Training Wing, with responsibilities for supply coordination and equipment management, duties that seemed consistent with her observed activities. However, the records lacked detailed information about her military occupational specialty training or previous assignment history, information that was typically included in standard personnel files. The absence of this data suggested either classification restrictions or administrative errors that prevented normal information access. Tyler's investigation expanded to include research into standard qualification requirements for supply coordination positions, hoping to understand whether Sarah's apparent expertise represented exceptional individual capability or evidence of specialized training that wasn't reflected in available personnel records. His research revealed that basic supply coordination required administrative training, but not the technical knowledge and tactical awareness that Sarah consistently demonstrated during training exercises. The discrepancy between standard position requirements and Sarah's actual capabilities reinforced Tyler's conviction that important information about program personnel was being withheld for reasons that seemed inconsistent with routine administrative security. His military education had taught him to analyze systems and identify inconsistencies that might indicate security concerns or operational irregularities, skills that he believed should be applied to understanding his training environment completely. Emma Chen supported Tyler's investigation efforts, agreeing that personnel qualification questions represented legitimate concerns about program integrity rather than inappropriate curiosity about individual backgrounds. Her own attempts to gather information about administrative staff qualifications had been similarly unsuccessful, creating a pattern of information restriction that seemed excessive for routine training operations. Their shared frustration with apparent secrecy strengthened their informal alliance and increased their determination to understand program organization completely. During the week's fourth day, Tyler observed Sarah participating in discussions with medical equipment technicians that involved detailed analysis of device performance data and recommendations for configuration modifications. Her contributions to these conversations demonstrated understanding of equipment functionality that exceeded basic operator training, suggesting either exceptional self-education or formal technical preparation that wasn't reflected in her official position description. Her recommendations were implemented by technicians who seemed to value her input despite her apparent lack of formal technical qualifications. The morning's training exercise involved helicopter medical evacuation scenarios that required trainees to stabilize critically injured casualties during flight while managing limited space and equipment constraints. Tyler's performance during these exercises demonstrated his adaptability and technical competence under challenging conditions that replicated actual deployment requirements. His ability to maintain medical effectiveness while coordinating with flight crews earned recognition from instructors who emphasized the importance of inter-service cooperation in operational environments. Sarah's role during helicopter exercises involved ensuring that flight-certified medical equipment was properly configured and maintained according to aviation safety requirements that differed from ground-based medical protocols. Tyler observed her interactions with flight crews and medical technicians, noting that her knowledge of aviation medical requirements seemed unusually comprehensive for someone in a ground-based supply position. Her familiarity with helicopter medical configurations suggested experience that extended beyond routine administrative training. During post-exercise debriefing, Tyler questioned instructors about qualification requirements for personnel involved in aviation medical support, hoping to understand whether Sarah's apparent expertise represented standard training or specialized preparation. The responses emphasized the importance of comprehensive equipment knowledge while avoiding specific discussion of individual personnel qualifications, a pattern that Tyler had come to recognize as deliberate information restriction rather than routine privacy protection. Tyler's growing frustration with information limitations prompted him to expand his investigation beyond official channels, seeking insights from senior personnel who might provide context unavailable through formal inquiries. His conversations with experienced, non-commissioned officers revealed respect for Sarah's capabilities that seemed disproportionate to her apparent rank and position, though specific details about her background remained unavailable even through informal discussions. Sergeant First Class Santos approached Tyler, following his latest attempt to gather information about personnel qualifications, her expression suggesting awareness of his investigation efforts. Her comments about the importance of focusing on individual development rather than analyzing other personnel's backgrounds carried an undertone of warning that Tyler recognized as guidance rather than simple advice. Santos emphasized that successful military service required trust in leadership decisions, even when the reasoning behind those decisions wasn't immediately apparent to junior personnel. Tyler acknowledged the sergeant's guidance, while privately maintaining his conviction that understanding operational context was essential for effective military service. His training at West Point had emphasized critical thinking and situational awareness as leadership qualities, skills that he believed required comprehensive understanding of organizational structure and personnel capabilities. The apparent restrictions on information about Sarah's background continued to frustrate his attempts to comprehend program organization completely. The week's training concluded with comprehensive scenarios that integrated all previously learned skills into complex operational simulations requiring sustained medical operations under challenging conditions. Tyler's performance during these culminating exercises demonstrated his mastery of advanced combat medicine and his readiness for operational assignments that would test his capabilities under actual deployment conditions. His leadership during integrated scenarios reinforced his position among the program's most promising candidates. Sarah's coordination efforts during the comprehensive exercises involved managing equipment and supply requirements for sustained operations, while adapting to changing tactical situations that affected both personnel safety and resource availability. Tyler observed her performance with growing admiration for her competence, though his curiosity about her background remained unsatisfied despite extensive investigation efforts. The contrast between her apparent qualifications and actual capabilities continued to puzzle him as training progressed toward its final phases. As the third week concluded, Tyler had compiled extensive observations about inconsistencies between Sarah's official position and her demonstrated capabilities, evidence that suggested either exceptional individual development or specialized background that wasn't reflected in available information. His investigation had revealed patterns of information restriction that seemed excessive for routine administrative security, creating questions about program organization that demanded answers he couldn't obtain through available channels. The stage was set for revelations that would transform his understanding of both Sarah's background and the nature of military service itself. The fourth week of advanced combat medic training at Fort Bridgewater began with an announcement that sent ripples of anticipation through the entire base. Colonel James Harrison, a legendary figure in military medical circles, would be conducting an unscheduled inspection and evaluation of the program. Harrison's reputation preceded him like thunder before lightning. Stories of his battlefield innovations during the Afghanistan conflict had become required reading in military medical schools, and his current position as Director of Combat Medical Operations for the entire theater made his visit unprecedented for a training facility. Tyler Brooks felt his pulse quicken as Captain Rodriguez delivered the briefing about Colonel Harrison's impending arrival. This was the opportunity he had been preparing for throughout his military career, a chance to demonstrate his capabilities before someone whose recommendations could fast-track assignments to the most elite medical units in the service. Tyler's confidence surged as he mentally reviewed his performance statistics and prepared to showcase the leadership qualities that had distinguished him throughout the program. Sarah Mitchell received the news about Colonel Harrison's visit with an expression that Tyler couldn't quite interpret. While other personnel showed various degrees of nervousness or excitement about the high-level inspection, Sarah's reaction seemed more complex, almost resigned. She continued her equipment preparation with the same methodical efficiency that characterized all her work, but Tyler noticed a subtle tension in her movements that suggested the visit held significance beyond routine evaluation concerns. The base transformed overnight as personnel prepared for an inspection that could influence funding, assignments, and the program's future reputation within military medical circles. Every surface was cleaned, every procedure double-checked, and every uniform pressed to perfection. Tyler threw himself into the preparation with characteristic intensity, recognizing that exceptional performance during Harrison's visit could determine his entire career trajectory in military medicine. Emma Chen organized study sessions among the trainees, reviewing advanced procedures and discussing potential scenarios that might test their knowledge during the colonel's evaluation. Tyler's participation in these sessions reinforced his informal leadership position while providing opportunities to demonstrate the comprehensive understanding that set him apart from candidates who possessed technical competence without strategic thinking. His confidence grew as fellow trainees sought his guidance on complex medical scenarios. Sarah's preparation for the inspection involved comprehensive equipment checks and inventory verification that ensured every piece of medical technology would function flawlessly during demonstration exercises. Tyler observed her working late into the evening, reviewing technical manuals and testing device configurations with the kind of thoroughness that suggested personal investment in the program's success. Her dedication to administrative details impressed him, though he remained puzzled by the intensity of her preparation for what should have been routine supply coordination duties. The morning of Colonel Harrison's arrival dawned clear and cold, with mountain air so crisp it seemed to sharpen every sound and detail across Fort Bridgewater. Tyler arrived at the formation area 30 minutes early, his uniform immaculate and his equipment arranged with precision that reflected both military standards and personal pride. The other trainees gathered with similar attention to detail, their nervous energy tempered by weeks of intensive preparation for exactly this kind of evaluation. Sarah appeared at the supply depot before sunrise, conducting final equipment checks and organizing medical kits according to specifications that anticipated every possible training scenario. Tyler noticed that she seemed unusually focused, her movements carrying a sense of purpose that exceeded routine administrative preparation. Her equipment arrangements demonstrated knowledge of tactical medical requirements that continued to puzzle him despite weeks of observation and investigation. Colonel Harrison's arrival was announced by the distinctive sound of military helicopters approaching the base, their rotors cutting through the morning silence with mechanical precision that commanded attention across the entire facility. Tyler felt his heart rate increase as he watched the aircraft settle onto the landing zone, knowing that the next few hours would likely determine his future in military medicine. The colonel's reputation for identifying exceptional talent was matched only by his standards for performance that eliminated candidates who couldn't meet elite operational requirements. The colonel emerged from the lead helicopter with the bearing of someone accustomed to command at the highest levels of military service. His uniform displayed ribbons and decorations that testified to distinguished service in multiple combat zones, while his confident stride suggested the kind of natural authority that influenced subordinates without requiring demonstration. Tyler studied Harrison's appearance and demeanor, noting details that might provide insights into the kind of performance that would earn favorable evaluation. Captain Rodriguez led the welcoming ceremony with military precision that reflected both respect for the colonel's rank and recognition of his influence within military medical circles. The formal protocol proceeded smoothly through introductions and facility orientation, though Tyler noticed that Colonel Harrison's attention seemed focused on aspects of the program that extended beyond routine inspection requirements. His questions about personnel qualifications and training effectiveness suggested evaluation criteria that included factors Tyler hadn't anticipated. The colonel's first stop involved reviewing training records and performance statistics for current program participants, an evaluation that Tyler anticipated with confidence based on his consistently exceptional scores in every measured category. Harrison's review of individual records was thorough and systematic, though his comments focused on broader program effectiveness rather than specific candidate capabilities. Tyler waited for recognition of his outstanding performance while observing the colonel's professional assessment of training documentation. During the records review, Tyler noticed that Colonel Harrison spent considerable time examining administrative staff qualifications and support system effectiveness, areas that seemed peripheral to the core mission of evaluating combat medic training. His questions about equipment management and supply coordination suggested interest in operational support that exceeded typical inspection focus on candidate performance. Sarah's role in program operations seemed to attract the colonel's attention in ways that Tyler found puzzling given her apparent administrative position. The formal inspection tour began with observation of advanced surgical training, scenarios that Tyler had mastered through weeks of intensive practice and natural aptitude for complex medical procedures. His performance during the demonstration exercise exceeded his already high personal standards, showcasing both technical competence and the kind of innovative thinking that distinguished exceptional candidates from merely adequate ones. Colonel Harrison observed his work with professional interest, though his evaluation comments remained neutral and systematic. Sarah's responsibilities during the surgical demonstration involved maintaining equipment functionality and ensuring sterile supply availability, duties that she performed with the efficiency Tyler had come to expect. However, he noticed that Colonel Harrison's attention frequently shifted to Sarah's movements and coordination efforts, observation that seemed disproportionate to routine administrative functions. The colonel's interest in support operations continued to puzzle Tyler despite his focus on his own demonstration performance. Following the surgical exercise, Colonel Harrison requested a comprehensive briefing on program logistics and support systems, areas that Tyler considered important but secondary to the core medical training that distinguished elite candidates. Sarah was summoned to provide detailed information about equipment management and supply coordination, a responsibility that placed her in direct communication with the highest-ranking medical officer Tyler had ever encountered. Her composure during this interaction impressed him, while increasing his curiosity about her background. During Sarah's briefing, Tyler observed her providing technical information about medical equipment and operational procedures, with expertise that seemed far beyond basic administrative training. Her answers to Colonel Harrison's detailed questions demonstrated knowledge of advanced medical systems and tactical applications that Tyler recognized as requiring specialized preparation. The colonel's follow-up questions suggested recognition of capabilities that exceeded apparent position requirements, creating an interaction that seemed increasingly significant. Colonel Harrison's next evaluation focus involved mass casualty management exercises that tested both individual competence and team coordination under extreme pressure. Tyler's leadership during these scenarios demonstrated his mastery of triage principles and his ability to organize treatment teams effectively while maintaining situational awareness and resource accountability. His performance reinforced his position among the program's top candidates, while providing opportunities to showcase the strategic thinking that distinguished natural leaders. Sarah's coordination efforts during the mass casualty exercise involved managing equipment distribution and maintaining communication between multiple treatment areas while adapting to rapidly changing tactical situations. Tyler observed her performance with growing admiration, noting that her capabilities seemed to exceed not only routine administrative requirements, but also the competence typically demonstrated by personnel with formal tactical training. Her efficiency during high-stress operations impressed both Tyler and the observing colonel. As the exercises progressed through increasingly complex scenarios, Tyler noticed that Colonel Harrison's attention remained divided between candidate performance and support system effectiveness. His questions about equipment coordination and supply management suggested evaluation criteria that included operational sustainability alongside individual medical competence. Sarah's contributions to exercise success seemed to attract continuing attention from the colonel, observation that Tyler found increasingly puzzling. The day's culminating exercise involved integrated combat medical operations that combined all previously demonstrated skills into comprehensive scenarios requiring sustained performance under maximum stress. Tyler's capabilities were tested through leadership challenges that demanded both technical excellence and strategic decision-making under conditions designed to overwhelm normal cognitive processes. His performance during this ultimate evaluation exceeded his own expectations, while demonstrating readiness for the most demanding operational assignments. During the integrated exercise, Tyler witnessed Sarah coordinating complex logistical operations while maintaining awareness of tactical developments that affected both personnel safety and mission effectiveness. Her performance suggested understanding of combat operations that extended far beyond supply coordination, though her official position provided no explanation for such comprehensive capabilities. Colonel Harrison's continued observation of her activities seemed to carry significance that Tyler couldn't interpret, despite careful attention to the interaction. As the formal evaluation concluded, Tyler felt confident that his performance had demonstrated the exceptional capabilities that would earn Colonel Harrison's recommendation for elite assignment opportunities. His technical competence and leadership abilities had been thoroughly tested and proven under conditions that replicated the most demanding operational requirements. The colonel's professional demeanor throughout the evaluation suggested systematic assessment rather than obvious approval, though Tyler remained optimistic about favorable evaluation results. Colonel Harrison requested a private meeting with Captain Rodriguez and Dr. Walsh to discuss program assessment and recommendations, a standard procedure that Tyler anticipated would include review of top candidate qualifications and assignment possibilities. He positioned himself where he might observe the meeting participants while respecting appropriate distance from confidential discussions. His expectation of favorable evaluation made him eager for any indication of the colonel's assessment conclusions. However, Tyler's confidence began to waver when he observed Colonel Harrison specifically requesting Sarah's participation in the private assessment meeting. Her inclusion in discussions typically limited to senior officers seemed inconsistent with her administrative position and suggested significance that Tyler couldn't comprehend. His curiosity about her background reached critical intensity as he watched her enter the meeting room with the same calm professionalism that characterized all her interactions. Through the meeting room windows, Tyler could observe body language and general interaction patterns without hearing specific conversation content. Colonel Harrison's demeanor toward Sarah seemed to carry respect that exceeded normal interactions with administrative personnel, while her responses appeared confident and substantial rather than simply informational. The meeting continued far longer than typical inspection debriefings, suggesting discussion content that went beyond routine evaluation matters. When the meeting concluded, Tyler noticed that Colonel Harrison emerged with an expression that seemed to combine satisfaction with something approaching amazement. His interactions with Captain Rodriguez and Dr. Walsh carried undertones of significance that suggested the evaluation had revealed information or capabilities beyond normal program expectations. Sarah's exit from the meeting appeared calm and professional, though Tyler detected subtle changes in her demeanor that he couldn't specifically identify. Colonel Harrison's departure preparations were interrupted by an urgent communication that Tyler couldn't hear, but could observe through body language and reaction patterns. The colonel's expression shifted to serious concern as he received what appeared to be emergency information requiring immediate response. His subsequent conversation with Captain Rodriguez suggested crisis situations that demanded immediate attention from senior medical leadership. The nature of the emergency became clear when Colonel Harrison announced that he would be extending his visit to conduct specialized briefings for selected personnel who might be required for immediate deployment to support ongoing operations. Tyler's excitement surged as he anticipated inclusion in such elite selection, recognizing the opportunity for assignment to exactly the kind of high-level operations that represented the pinnacle of military medical service. However, Tyler's expectations were shattered when Colonel Harrison specifically requested Sarah's presence for the specialized briefing session, while other personnel were dismissed to continue routine training activities. The selection of an administrative coordinator for emergency operational briefings made no logical sense within Tyler's understanding of military organization and capability assessment. His confusion deepened as he watched Sarah proceed to the briefing room with the composure of someone accustomed to such responsibilities. Emma Chen approached Tyler with expressions of similar confusion about the selection criteria for emergency briefings that seemed to ignore demonstrated candidate capabilities in favor of administrative personnel, whose qualifications remained unclear. Her observations about apparent inconsistencies in evaluation procedures reinforced Tyler's growing frustration with aspects of the program that defied logical explanation. Their shared confusion created an alliance of bewilderment that demanded resolution. The emergency briefing continued for nearly 2 hours, during which Tyler and other dismissed personnel waited with growing impatience for information about the crisis that required such urgent senior attention. Their speculation about operational requirements and deployment possibilities was frustrated by lack of specific information about the situation that demanded immediate response from selected personnel. Tyler's exclusion from briefings that apparently required administrative coordination seemed to contradict everything he understood about military capability assessment. When the briefing finally concluded, Colonel Harrison emerged with Sarah and immediately proceeded to establish communication with higher headquarters, suggesting that the crisis required coordination at levels far beyond base operations. Tyler observed their interaction with growing amazement, noting that Sarah's participation in high-level communications seemed to carry weight that exceeded any reasonable explanation for administrative involvement in operational planning. The resolution of Tyler's confusion came with devastating suddenness when Colonel Harrison addressed the assembled personnel to provide context for the emergency situation and explain the specialized response requirements. His announcement began with routine information about operational support needs before shifting to recognition of specific expertise required for complex medical crisis management. Tyler listened with growing attention as the colonel's explanation approached identification of personnel qualified for immediate deployment. Colonel Harrison's words struck Tyler like physical blows as the truth finally emerged from weeks of accumulated confusion and misdirection. Sarah Mitchell, the quiet supply coordinator whom Tyler had dismissed as administratively competent but operationally irrelevant, was revealed to be Colonel Sarah Mitchell, one of the most decorated combat medics in military history. Her current assignment to Fort Bridgewater represented voluntary service in training development, rather than career limitation or administrative exile. The colonel's explanation continued with details that transformed Tyler's understanding of everything he had observed during the previous weeks. Colonel Mitchell's legendary status in military medical circles included innovations in battlefield trauma treatment that had revolutionized combat medicine and saved thousands of lives during multiple deployments. Her tactical medical expertise had been developed through operations so classified that her real achievements remained unknown to most military personnel. Tyler felt his worldview collapsing as Colonel Harrison described specific operations where Colonel Mitchell's capabilities had proved decisive in mission success and personnel survival. The number 847 represented documented lives saved through her direct medical intervention during a single deployment, though her total impact on military medical effectiveness extended far beyond quantifiable statistics. Her voluntary assignment to training duties reflected commitment to developing future combat medics, rather than pursuing personal advancement or recognition. The revelation continued with explanation of Colonel Mitchell's current cover assignment, which allowed her to evaluate training effectiveness and candidate capabilities without the artificial behavior that her revealed identity would create among trainees seeking to impress a legendary figure. Her assessment of program participants provided insights unavailable through conventional evaluation methods, while her technical contributions improved training realism and effectiveness based on actual operational experience. Tyler's shock deepened as he realized that every interaction with Sarah had been observed and evaluated by someone whose combat medical expertise exceeded his wildest career aspirations. His dismissive attitude and condescending behavior had been witnessed by a living legend whose achievements represented the pinnacle of everything Tyler claimed to value in military service. The magnitude of his misjudgment created shame so intense it felt like physical pain. Colonel Harrison's explanation concluded with announcement that Colonel Mitchell would be departing immediately for emergency deployment to support ongoing operations, requiring her specialized expertise in mass casualty management and tactical medical innovation. Her selection for this assignment reflected recognition at the highest levels of military command that certain situations demanded capabilities possessed by only a few individuals in the entire service. As Tyler processed the devastating revelation of his complete misjudgment, he watched Colonel Mitchell prepare for immediate deployment with the same calm efficiency that had characterized all her activities at Fort Bridgewater. Her transformation from apparent administrative personnel to deployed operational commander occurred without fanfare or dramatic gesture, simply professional competence applied to changed circumstances. The contrast between her genuine capabilities and Tyler's assumptions created humiliation beyond anything he had previously experienced. Emma Chen approached Tyler with expressions of shared shock and dawning understanding of their collective failure to recognize exceptional capability disguised as routine service. Her previous support for Tyler's dismissive attitude toward Colonel Mitchell now seemed like participation in profound disrespect towards someone whose achievements represented everything they aspired to accomplish in military medicine. The recognition of their shared blindness created bonds of mutual embarrassment and determination to learn from catastrophic misjudgment. Colonel Mitchell's departure preparations included brief individual meetings with selected trainees, sessions that Tyler observed with growing dread as he anticipated the conversation that would address his behavior during the previous weeks. His expectation of harsh criticism or formal discipline reflected recognition that his conduct had demonstrated exactly the kind of prejudgment and arrogance that created operational failures in environments where competence literally meant life or death. When Colonel Mitchell approached Tyler for their individual discussion, her expression carried neither anger nor disappointment, but rather the kind of patient professionalism that Tyler was beginning to recognize as characteristic of true military excellence. Her comments addressed his performance capabilities and potential for development, while acknowledging that growth required overcoming assumptions that limited his ability to recognize and value competence, regardless of how it was presented. Tyler's response to Colonel Mitchell's guidance reflected genuine remorse for his previous behavior, combined with determination to apply lessons learned through devastating personal experience. His recognition of the prejudices that had blinded him to her capabilities created commitment to approaching military service with humility and respect for contributions that might not conform to his limited understanding of excellence. Colonel Mitchell's patient response to his contrition demonstrated the kind of leadership that inspired rather than demanded improvement. The final phase of Colonel Mitchell's departure involved coordination with deployment logistics and communication with operational commanders, who required her immediate support for ongoing crisis management. Tyler observed these activities with new understanding of the responsibilities carried by personnel whose capabilities placed them at the center of the military's most demanding operations. Her transition from training environment to operational deployment demonstrated the seamless competence that characterized elite military professionals. As Colonel Mitchell's helicopter departed Fort Bridgewater, Tyler stood with other personnel watching the aircraft disappear into the Colorado sky, while processing the complete transformation of his understanding about capability, service, and the meaning of true military excellence. The woman he had dismissed as administratively adequate had revealed herself as operationally exceptional, teaching lessons about prejudgment and recognition that would influence his entire subsequent career. Tyler's integration of these lessons began immediately, as he approached his remaining training with renewed humility and determination to recognize rather than assume capabilities in colleagues and supervisors. His previous confidence had been tempered by understanding that excellence often came disguised as ordinary service, and that the most important military virtues included recognition and respect for contributions that might not conform to conventional expectations. The program's conclusion brought assignment announcements that reflected careful evaluation of candidate capabilities and potential for development in various operational environments. Tyler's assignment to a conventional medical unit provided opportunities for growth and learning, while acknowledging that elite assignments required not only technical competence, but also the wisdom to recognize and value excellence regardless of how it appeared. His acceptance of this assignment reflected newfound understanding that career success measured in service, rather than recognition. Months later, Tyler found himself sharing Colonel Mitchell's lessons with new personnel, who demonstrated the same prejudices and assumptions that had once limited his own effectiveness. His ability to guide others away from the mistakes that had created his own humiliation represented practical application of wisdom gained through devastating personal experience. The story of the supply coordinator who revealed herself as a legendary combat medic became his most effective tool for teaching respect and recognition. Tyler's subsequent career was shaped by constant awareness that exceptional capability often served without fanfare or recognition, and that true military excellence required identifying and supporting such service regardless of apparent rank or position. His encounters with Colonel Mitchell had taught him that the most important military virtues included humility before unknown capabilities and respect for service that valued contribution over credit. These lessons influenced every subsequent assignment and interaction throughout his military career. Years later, Tyler would learn that Colonel Mitchell's emergency deployment had involved establishing medical support for refugee evacuation operations, where her innovations in mass casualty management had saved additional hundreds of lives. The number 847 had grown larger through continued service that remained largely classified and unrecognized by those who benefited from her expertise. Her legacy lived not in medals or recognition, but in the countless individuals whose lives had been preserved through her dedication to excellence without fanfare. The final lesson of Tyler's experience involved understanding that the greatest military heroes were often those whose service remained invisible to those around them, individuals whose capabilities exceeded imagination while their commitment to mission accomplishment superseded any desire for personal recognition. Colonel Sarah Mitchell had embodied this ideal of service, teaching through example that true strength lay not in demanding acknowledgement, but in quietly excelling at whatever responsibilities circumstances required. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.